8. July. Dearest Suzie, I still have not received any mail since the 1st. They keep saying that they are going to send our mail up, but I don't know when. Looks like they have forgotten us down here. I am too short to care anymore, though. I would sure like to get a letter from you, but I'm just hoping that no news is good news and that you are enjoying your vacation. I have moved again, and I'm all settled down for now, I guess, the next 30 days. Nothing is sure up here, though. We could go home tomorrow. That is why I don't want you to try to write me here. We live in a compound here, just like we had at Vin Long, only there are only 4 pilots here. We have 2 armed ships up here, and we keep them parked outside the gate in an open field. That's for a fast getaway. The name of this place is Quang Ngai. The chow here is not too bad, but most of the time they are out of ice, which is the most important thing over here. The heat is almost unbearable. Yesterday I had a slight case of heat exhaustion and thought I would die. You get completely wet with sweat by 8 o'clock in the morning and stay that way all day long, and not a breeze anywhere. That is another reason I want to go to the beach for a week. I want to sit out on the front porch in the shade and feel that ocean breeze. I think I could just sit all day for a week like that. Of course, if I did that, I would be bored to death at night, so you might want to start now thinking of little games we could play at night to keep from getting bored. Let me know if you have any good ideas about that. This buddy of mine told me the other day that he wrote his wife and told her that if she wanted to be the first woman he got a hold of when he got home, she had better be at the bottom of the steps when he stepped off the plane. She wrote back and told him that if he ever wanted to be the first guy to get it, he better be the first one off the plane. Enough said. I still don't have my orders. Louis Litt is going to Fort Hood, just in case I didn't tell you before. They've got to come through soon, though. When I get back to Vin Long, I will have less than 50 days. Flying is the same. We are still putting in a lot of hours. Well, tell my boys I love them and miss them and say hello to everyone for me. And take care of yourself. I love you very much. Sincerely, Bill. In today's letter, Poppy is settling into Quang Ngai, his new post for what he assumes will be the next 30 days. He talks about the heat, the absence of mail, and how fast the days go when you're this short. Just 50 or so days left before he's headed home. It's one of his more playful letters. He writes about how he wishes he was sitting out on the porch with Suzie, feeling the breeze off the ocean, and when night falls, coming up with some little games they can play to pass the time so they won't get bored. It's coy, affectionate, and unmistakably flirtatious. Then there's the story he shares about another pilot who tells his wife, "You want to be the first woman I see when I get home, you better be at the bottom of the steps when I get off the plane." She then replies by saying, "If you want to be the first man to get it, you better be the first one off." These kinds of jokes carried a lot of weight for soldiers. They were reminders that desire still existed, that they were still tethered to love and intimacy and life outside the war. But sex and sexuality in Vietnam weren't just waiting at home, they were also very present in country, and that reality shaped the war in complex ways. This subject reminds me of 2 specific examples. In the 1974 documentary Hearts and Minds, there's a jarring scene filmed in a Saigon brothel. American soldiers lounge in rooms with young Vietnamese women joking and waiting for their turn. It's awkward and casual and deeply transactional. Some of the men smile at the camera, wave, or light cigarettes. The women look away. The filmmaker doesn't narrate over this scene. He just lets it sit. It forces the viewer to absorb the quiet violence of what's happening. Not a firefight, not a bombing run, but another kind of occupation. And in Phil Clay's short story, In Vietnam They Had Whores, from his collection, Redeployment, a modern soldier reflects on the legacy of that earlier war as he experiences a strip club in a trailer near a base in the States. He talks about how sex, specifically with Vietnamese women, became not just an outlet for stress, but a kind of myth, passed down in stories and rumors. The story's title isn't casual. It's a bitter nod to how soldiers in Vietnam were sometimes envied by later generations for the perceived access they had to sex and how much of that memory has been filtered through bravado, guilt, or both. In reality, prostitution was widespread in Vietnam. Some estimates suggest tens of thousands of Vietnamese women worked in the sex trade during the war, many out of economic desperation, others through outright coercion. The military tried, half-heartedly, to regulate it with off-limit zones, venereal disease checks, and education campaigns. But for the most part, sex was treated like a necessary part of the war machine, something the men needed, something no one wanted to talk about too deeply. But the emotional landscape was more complicated than that. For many soldiers, sex was about proximity to something human, a break in the fear, the monotony, the brutality. Sometimes it was exploitative, sometimes it was deeply sad, and sometimes, rarely, it became a real connection. Poppy doesn't write about any of that directly, But there's a through line here. His longing for Suzie isn't just romantic. It's physical, it's playful, it's real. And the letter holds that tension. He wants her, he misses her, and he's counting the days. The tension was shared by tens of thousands of men, many of whom weren't married, many of whom didn't write letters home. For those men, desire didn't go away. It just adapted to war. The photo I chose for today appears to be taken from the inside of the Officers' Club. There are Vietnamese women dancing in sparkling dresses with an American clapping alongside them. It is presumably nighttime. I think it's easy to figure out what is going on here. I'm Alex Lowy, and I hope you have enjoyed listening to this episode of Dearest Suzie, and receiving messages from the past that my poppy wrote exactly 60 years ago. I sincerely appreciate your time and interest. Please consider following the podcast on your preferred platform, and if you're enjoying it, I kindly ask that you take the time to rate the show and leave a review. Also, please follow the project on YouTube, X, and Instagram. All likes, comments, shares, and reviews will help grow the reach of this story. The links for these things should be in the description of this episode. Please feel free to email me at dearestsuziepodcast@gmail.com if you have anything you'd like to say. I'd love to chat or to hear about your stories as well. Thank you for listening, and God bless.